according to the US government. The allegations of corporate fraud against Gautam Adani, which were made by short seller Hindenburg Research, are not relevant. The US International Development Finance Corporation, or the D.F.C, conducted a due diligence investigation. It concluded that there is no relevance in the allegations regarding Adani's supposed corporate malpractices. This decision was made before approving $553 million for Adani's container terminal project in Sri Lanka. The D.F.C was satisfied that accusations in Hindenburg's report weren't applicable to Adani Ports and Special Economic Zone Limited. Following this revelation, the Adani Group stocks have surged 20%. This brings us to the question, who will probe Hindenburg's short selling? Is it time that the US probes this hit job? Joining us at this point is Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, former diplomat. We also have Mithali Nikore, senior economist, joining us live. Sharat Kohli, senior economist, is also live with us. Pathikrit Pine, international affairs expert, joins the broadcast as well. Let me bring you in here first. Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, on your take on, of course, this, this new report, stunning revelations. What do you make of it?
Thank you, Uday. It's a very interesting development. And personally, I'm happy that, the Development Finance Corporation of the US is spearheading this effort, because the Hindenburg report initially itself was like a hit job. And there was a lot of controversy surrounding it. And a lot of other things have come to light since the report on Adani Ports. Now, it is good to have due diligence. It is good to monitor it continuously, definitely. But for, the Indian stock market, the Indian share market, the Indian portfolios to lose so heavily in tens of billions of dollars, and for the Adani conglomerate to lose value in hundreds of billions of dollars worth. And now they are regaining a lot of that value. So a lot of this is also based on investor confidence. We have seen that soon after the Hindenburg report, there were a lot of, investments into the Adani Group from West Asia and other places. And their stock started appreciating thereafter. Now, with this investment of over $500 million by the Development Finance Corporation of the US, it will again gain more value. This gives a rallying, point and a rallying cry for the other Indian conglomerates also, that it is not going to be easy to pull down the bigger conglomerates by such hit jobs, and that the Indian economy is going to be one of the most important drivers of the global economy. Now, Sri Lanka has been in very bad shape due to the predatory loans by China and Hambantota, as the whole world has seen. The whole economy had collapsed completely. It had become a failed state. It was India which led the efforts to revive the Sri Lankan economy, and the Sri Lankans are eternally grateful for that. Now, for an Indian conglomerate to again bring in so much of investments into Sri Lanka is again a sign of confidence that the Sri Lankan economy is on a track to recovery. And for the US to be collaborating with India in this effort, in a very significant move, is a challenge to the geopolitics and the geostrategic efforts of China to spread its footprint in the region by whatever means that it does, which we all know about. So I think it's a very good thing which has happened. It's good for the South Asian region. It is good for Sri Lanka, and it is good for India-US relationship, and it is a good effort to challenge China's, aggression and very, very sort of predatory attitudes in so many countries under the direct financing, under the BRI financing, Belt and Roads Initiative financing. So it's a very good signal to the whole world that yes, India and the US are going to be moving ahead together and working on these sort of efforts to manage the aggression of China.
No, this is very, very significant, Pathikrit, because while the Supreme Court is already looking at the matter, and we've seen the SEBI report give a clean sheet on many of the counts already to the Adani Group, this is coming in from the United States of America, who is not a vested party in this particular case. And this is coming in from a very prominent finance corporation's due diligence investigation, Pathikrit.
I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
See, I think let me tell you. I think the US administration now realizes that when it comes to countering China, especially in the South Asian region and Southeast Asia, you require Adanis. Okay, there are very few countries, there are very few companies which has that kind of capacity to invest for in such projects that would take at least a decade to give returns. So I think, if you ask me frankly, it's kind of a course correction. It's not that they would have done it otherwise. Frankly, let me tell you one thing. If one of your questions was as to whether they would take any action against the Hindenburg. Well, I don't think they'll take any action. They'll say it's a free country. They came out with the report, big deal. Now, why should we expect actions? I don't expect, because America doesn't even take action against Gurbatman Singh Pannu for threatening to blow up the Indian Parliament again, for threatening to blow up Air India planes, and US then sends the CIA director to India. So are we to believe that CIA has nothing to do with Pannu? So let me tell you, it's a very, very tricky game going on. I think US must get its acts right as to what they want from you. Do they actually, it can't be that, okay, when it comes to fighting China, we are with you, we will whitewash everything. Wherever needed, we will actually do course correction wherever needed. But when it comes to other issues, we also have to contain you. We can't allow you to be another China. So when it comes to containing you, then, Pannu is a very, very strategic asset. Hardeep Singh Nijjar was a plumber, so you can't do anything. And even if you don't do anything, we will tell you that why did you do something, why did you try to do something. So let me tell you, whether America would have given this clean sheet, the financial institution, I don't think an average Indian in India had lost confidence in Adani or any of the Indian conglomerates. This whole narrative that has been run from the West for a long time, where you iconize Western entrepreneurs, tell the world how great they are, and you pin down Indian industrialists, has been going on for a long time. It is not something new. And let me tell you, it would not be the last one also. In future, whether it is the Adani or somebody else, the hit job will continue like this so long as it suits the purpose of certain organizations and certain entities and certain countries, or at least a section of certain countries. So if you ask me, we have never asked for the validation. They wanted to be part of this. Adani otherwise would have continued to invest in the Govt. It is Americans who are now interested to be part of it. So in that way, if they are okay with it, we want to show some things, fine. But it doesn't mean, with all due respect,
Patikrit, your audio is breaking when you're shaking, so you'll have to keep that. Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. So it doesn't mean that just because this validation has come, everything has gone right. Because I think there are a lot of tensions going on. I think beyond the point, Indians are not very happy with what Americans are trying to do with the countries. Can you imagine?
Okay, we're having audio issues with your connection. I'm going to have to come back to you. Let me quickly bring in, Mithali Nikore as well at this point. Mithali Nikore, let me quickly get you in here on your first take on these revelations that have emerged from this due diligence report. And now, of course, the big question that will the hit job be probed now by the US? Now that their own, corporation has given a clean sheet to the charges that Adani Group was facing.
Thanks a lot, Uday, for the opportunity to contribute on this very important topic. I was just reading a little bit about the Adani Group before coming on the show, just to prepare myself. And honestly, think about the number of infrastructure assets in India where they are invested, and where the group has been leading the investment. You have almost 17 major ports, which are sitting with Adani's. You have so many multimodal logistics parks. You have so many airports now. And these are critical infrastructure enablers under the Prime Minister's Gati Shakti Master Plan, which Adani is helping to build, and they are, helping to become nation builders. So I think from this point of view, if we just look at the importance of the company to the Indian economy, it is, of course, immense. Secondly, as my learned colleagues both pointed out, even in terms of the geopolitical sense, in terms of the South Asia region as a whole, how can we bring it together? We need better transport infrastructure. We need multimodal connectivity. We need inland waterways. We need ports to connect with each other. We need coastal shipping. And for all of this, we need companies like Adani and others, to come into the fray. Now, why is this decision important? Is because it not only gives confidence in Adani, but in Indian corporate governance of infrastructure companies as a whole. That, American companies can come, co-invest with Indian companies, their corporate governance is up to the mark, and invest in the South Asia region's infrastructure development. And this is critical for building, those economic growth pathways which we need for inclusive growth, sustainable growth. Adani is also investing in green energy now, and we need to see a lot more of that also going up. So, with this decision, they will be able to take more risks. Their credit ratings will improve. The stock market improves, and it overall benefits the economy. In terms of your question of, do we think a probe will happen? I fully agree with Pathakrit that, it's very unlikely. But I think at this point, it's also reached a point where maybe it doesn't matter so much. What is important is that a lot of the signaling effect of the importance of corporate governance practices in Indian infrastructure companies are coming through, and this is a very positive development for the economy.
All right. Let me, in fact, quickly get back in Pathakrit if we manage to sort his connection out. Pathakrit, you want to complete your point now?
Yes. No, I mean, the only thing I want to tell you is that at a micro level, it is definitely a very good decision, no denial of that. But I think US must set its course right as to what they exactly want from India. It cannot be that for the sake of containing China, we would have collaborated, but otherwise there will be issues, there will be areas. Look, can you imagine they want to invest in Adani, and tomorrow there's the Pannu guy wants to blow up any of the infrastructures in India. I mean, is US okay with it? So when you talk about a strategic partner, which is playing a very critical role in terms of becoming the 5th largest economy of the world, creating a resilient supply chains, creating alternate to China, you also need to consider its internal security. It cannot be that when it comes to business, when it comes to investments, when you need India to handhold you in containing China in certain areas, you would give green signal wherever it was necessary. Otherwise, this report could have come 6 months back. It did not come. But otherwise, you would take a different stand when it comes to issues of terrorism, because your terrorism is different and our terrorism as per you is different. The distinction between good terrorists and bad terrorists, the distinction between an activist when it suits you or a terrorist when it suits you, that is not going to help. So I think, yes, it definitely helps. No doubt that it will improve the confidence of the FIIs. But otherwise, Indians never had a doubt with the ability of the Adanis. The other thing is definitely US must make some course correction. I still believe, I may be wrong. Sorry if I'm politically incorrect. I don't think, this guy George Soros works in unison. It cannot be. He is front of somebody. So who that is, let it be an open-ended secret. But as I state, the West needs some course correction as to how they deal with global southern countries like India. So thank you.
Okay, let me in fact quickly also get in Sharat Kohli. Sharat Kohli, now obviously, there is a chorus that will the US probe Hindenburg short selling? Will the report, will the US be looking at this in all seriousness now? Now that its own corporation has given a clean sheet to the Adani Group. And interestingly, what sort of impact will all of this have on the allegations in India on the same group?
Well, there is a micro and macro view to the whole thing, Uday. The micro view is that within US, at least we know that the US administration was probably not with Hindenburg. That is the case. Secondly, I completely agree with Pathikrit that, US needs to first decide which side it needs to take. It cannot be selective. Heads I win, tails you lose. That kind of approach is not going to work. And, if you ask me personally, as an economist, I care a damn about US report and due diligence. Who cares about due diligence of US? How does it matter to us? How should we be concerned about due diligence being done by US? I mean, why should we depend on that? I'll rather depend on my SEBI. I'll depend on my stock exchange. I'll depend on my government investigation. I'll depend on my own internal investigating agencies. Who's US to give a certificate to Adani or anybody? And I think the vested interest here is very, very visible. If you invest $553 million in Sri Lanka with a company, you can't call that company as a thief. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you can't have a double-edged sword that way. So I think this is very, very obvious. and I completely disregard the DFC. Who's DFC? I don't understand what is DFC. I don't know the full form of DFC. I don't deal with DFC, and DFC doesn't have any certification in India. So why should we treat Americans? I'm sorry, Ambassador Kapoor, because he's sitting in DC, and I'm speaking while he's sitting there. I don't worship America. I don't worship American intelligence agencies. I don't worship American due diligence agencies. So as far as Adani is concerned, we know the strength of group. I'm not backing Adani as a group. If there is an overvaluation of a company, if the company is over leveraged, that's for the stock market to decide. That's for the investors to decide. I think each investor, when they take a decision, you do a fundamental analysis of a company. When you buy a stock, when you value a stock, there are multiple ways of valuing and deciding on a stock. So when I think we should just leave it to the investors. As far as Adani Group within India is concerned, we saw Adani stocks rising more than 20% over the last 2 days, ever since the election results have come, which is very, very reassuring. I think Adani Group is gradually recovering from that $100 billion hit that it had taken. If some of the investors want to react to DFC findings, well, so let it be. Let some people earn profit out of something coming out of there. We do react to international cues. The Indian stock markets do take into consideration news and views coming from the global world. But personally speaking, as far as an assurance is concerned, as far as a due diligence is concerned, I think for me, Adani stands where it stands, with or without DFC or whosoever it is. Uday.
Yes, let me in fact quickly go back across to Ambassador Kapoor on whether you believe that the US will probe the Hindenburg report, or do you believe it's far-fetched and they're not going to do so?
Well, it's unlikely that they will do that. I think for the US to understand, what the relations of with India mean to them in the longer term and the shorter term is much more important, and to make sure that irritants such as the case of Patwan Singh Pannu, who is indicted in Indian courts, have to be sorted out and not dealt with in a negative fashion. He's a terrorist. He cannot be called any other name. And if he's a terrorist who's on US soil, roaming freely, he has to be dealt with accordingly. He has to be behind bars in the US, or he has to be extradited to India for trial. There is no other recourse. So once that sort of thing happens, it sends very clear signals that both the countries are on the same page and they're dealing with terrorism in the same strong fashion. India has been very vocal about it and has been unequivocal in its support to groups which are against terrorism globally. Now the US also has to put its best foot forward and not prevaricate on issues like that. And according to the current situation, I think it will be very useful if the US realizes that also and moves ahead more strongly on so many other areas where India and US have to forge stronger ties. There are already very good ties in so many areas. There's good collaboration, good cooperation. But that can only increase with the steps where they make sure that the concerns and sensitivities of the Indian side are also factored in when they deal with India in the future. Thank you. Back to you there.
All right. Let me, in fact, quickly ask Mitali as well. Mitali, we are also seeing now the stocks rise of the Adani Group. Again, they've surged 20%. What is going to be the result of all of this, this good news for the Adani Group stocks going ahead and, company fortunes in general?
So absolutely, Uday. I would say that, we can actually witness a cascading effect of this improvement in the Adani stocks for the entire economy. Because Adani is a, end buyer. They have a lot of suppliers and they are, placing a lot of orders in the value chain. And the entire logistics value chain actually gets impacted when there is an improvement in Adani's company valuation, when there is an improvement in Adani's ability to invest more. With this, they will be able to invest in more infrastructure. There will be a, cascading effects, multiplier effects on the entire economy, more and more orders coming in the construction sector, more and more orders coming in other sectors. So we'll definitely start to see, more and more benefit for other companies in the value chain as well.
Yes, also now very quickly, Sharat Kohli, on this entire, of course, hit job that happened. At the end of the day, do you believe that it is now all but clear that it was motivated, it was a hit job, that things were very, very false, what put in the report? Is it all but clear now? We knew this earlier, but is there anything else left to prove? Or should we wait for the final Supreme Court verdict as well?
No, I think, respecting Supreme Court is always recommended. We can wait, but it is very, very clear. Hindenburg is a certified short seller. Somebody who can make profit out of bringing disrepute to you. That is the classic definition of Hindenburg. You criticize somebody, short sell, and you make money out of it. They made money out of it. A lot of people made money out of it. I think so. To be talking and discussing and dissecting an agency, Uday, who's categorically involved in the business of money making by bringing you disrepute, if I put it down in very, very precise terms. I think to discuss, dissect, and give them credibility of any sort, is complete. And we know what George Soros is all about. We know the connection between Hindenburg and George Soros. We know what George Soros did to the UK, many, many years here. So if it's my business, I defame you and I make money. If that's my business, I think he should come out with the fact. In fact, I will very strongly recommend now to the Adani Group. I heard Mr. Karan Adani giving a statement in a very positive way that our stance is vindicated now. I would suggest Adani Group is a very wealthy group. It's not a very poor conglomerate. It should file a legal suit in the United States at all levels and file a legal suit in India as well. International Court of Justice as well. At all levels, a legal action, a comprehensive legal action should be taken against Hindenburg, against George Soros. And now, because of this so-called D.F.C. report, I'm sure the US administration is not going to stand behind Hindenburg and try and save their skin. I think that action should be needed. A comprehensive, more than $1 trillion, I'm recommending an amount on your show, $1 trillion of lawsuits should be filed in US for recovery, defamation, and for the damage done to the country overall, Uday.
Yes, let me leave the last word then to Pathikrit Pine. Pathikrit, your closing comment on, on of course, what the US must, should, and probably do, and also on, on what the public should now infer on companies like Hindenburg.
Well, two things. I 100% agree with what Dr. Kohli stated. Secondly, as I said, I don't think the Americans will, take any action. But course correction is definitely required. However, this report potentially can create ripple impact in the political arena. I do not think the government of the day will let it go. They will actually, and justifiably so, pound on the opposition parties, especially one particular opposition party, which has created a habit of defaming Indian companies, taking support from certain foreign NGOs, and maligning the country to that extent for the sake of coming to power that it can have severe long-term damage to the country. I respect the Adanis for one simple reason, Uday, the kind of resilience they show to survive. Many companies would have got withered away with this kind of issue. And that's why I think hitting back, as Dr. Kohli mentioned, is very, very important, because the West and these NGOs and these agencies must be taught a lesson that they can't take the global South for granted anytime they want. Why is it that every time they come out with a report, our stock market will go down, and they come out with another report and it will go up? I think there's a lot of maturity from our side also needed, and a lesson, as Dr. Kohli mentioned, is rightfully need to be taught, for which this defamatory suit filing is very, very required. Uday, back to you.
All right, let me in fact quickly thank our viewers at this point. I was going to take another comment, of course, from Ambassador Kapoor. I think we run completely out of time, so we're going to leave it at that. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.